This is Artful Discourse, your weekly escape into the vibrant world of creativity, culture, and intellectual exploration. I'm your host, Benjamin Kirk, and I invite you to join me on a journey through the rich tapestry of human thought and the beating heart of artistic expression at Fresno State's College of Arts and Humanities. Today we're talking about the latest production by the Theater for Young Audiences called Along Came a Dog, written by Meindert DeJong and adapted and directed by Fresno State professor Nicola Olsen. In this unique play, live actors and puppets work together to portray a summer in the life of a farmer, a red hen, and a stray dog. There's a little bit of a spoiler alert in this, just so everybody knows, but I think we'll be all right. The meek and starving stray dog becomes the hen's protector. It's twice banished by the farmer, but the dog keeps coming back and manages to find his way in his mission to continue as the hen's guardian. By the end, he earns himself the gratitude of the farmer, and he finds the home that he's been looking for. So really kind of a fun play for kids. Today, our guests are Dr. Nicola Olsen and Fresno State alumnus and puppeteer Matt McGee. So welcome to both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Matt, you're joining us on Zoom from Arizona, and Nicola's here in our studio with us today.
You bet.
That's right.
All right. So I'd like to start off with a question for both of you. What
Sure.
do you love about puppetry?
I'm going to let Matt go first on that one.
That's a big question as someone who has spent his life in puppetry. The thing I love most about it, I think, is it is an art form that has the capacity to expand your imagination and allow audiences a chance to see stories come to life in ways I think you sometimes don't expect to see in live theater. At least that's been my approach. I work a lot in theater and not just, there's puppetry for film and for television. There's puppetry for like just little puppet shows for birthday parties and stuff. But I've specialized in theater or puppetry for theater. And my objective has been to help tell stories and create moments and characters and elements on stage that people think they can only see in the movies, right? Like bringing things to life in ways that make people go, wow, that's awesome, and make them excited to see theater.
Yeah. And I would say, so for me, I don't have a lifetime of puppetry background. Mine's a little bit more recent or a little bit less. But for me, I think the reason I love puppetry is that it combines two things that I love. And one is performance, and the other is like creating, almost like crafting, sculpting, building. So one of the things I love to do is you have an idea for a puppet and you draw it out and then you start building it. And over time, you put it together and it grows on you and you start to see its personality and maybe hear a voice in your head of what it's going to sound like when it starts, making noises. And then you get to pick it up and make it come alive. You get to activate it and make it live. And so for me, yeah, I just think it's magical. And like Matt said, it's all about imagination.
Yeah, and that's what I as a builder, that's what is the most exciting, is when you start to see your ideas come to life and finding it their personality and their character and their soul is really exciting.
So, Nicola, tell me about the play Along Came a Dog. What makes it unique?
Yeah. So, well, a little kind of fun background. This is a story that I read as a child. I loved going to the library at the school, and our librarian steered me towards some of Meindert DeJong's works, and this is one that I picked up that I just really enjoyed. And I thought, a long time ago, oh, this could make a great puppet show. And then I met Matt, and I thought, oh my word, sometimes it's so amazing when your ideas can become reality. And I saw it being possible. So what I think is really special about this story, particularly to me, is it's something that I've loved forever, something that I fell in love with as a child. And so I want to hand that back to the youth of the, the Central Valley that we'll tour to see with this show. I want to hand them back something that was magical for me, just in a different form.
Right on. Now, tell me a little bit more about the Theater for Young Audiences.
Sure. So Fresno State for years and years and years, and this is kind of fun too. So Matt can weigh in on this. He actually went on the tour when he was here at Fresno State, the
Yeah,
TYA tour. So
yeah,
yeah, so it's been around
and
for a
yeah,
long
and it
time.
was a show that involved dogs and chickens and stuff too.
Yeah, we like dogs and chickens in
Yeah.
TYA. Yeah. So TYA is this theater for young audiences, and here at Fresno State, there's just a long tradition of the students here putting together a production. They're the actors and the technicians, and there's a van and a trailer dedicated to the show. The design part of Fresno State, they design a set. There's full costumes. They just go to, they do a full production, and
Right.
then we travel to schools. So we'll go to Sanger and Madera, here in Fresno, Clovis, all over to any school that is interested in having us come visit. We put up our set, we do the show.
And I pulled a few facts off the website.
Great.
So the Theater for Young Audiences has been around for more than 50 years.
Yes.
Um, and they toured more than 40 schools. And at one point, I don't know if this is every season, but over 16,000 students in a single season.
Oh, wow.
That's what it says.
Yeah, I was gonna say this season so far we have 10 shows booked on tour, and then over Vintage Days we do 4 shows here on campus for people to come here, and then 2 shows on Saturday for the public.
Okay.
And last year and this year it looks like we'll be around like 3,500.
Wow. Yeah.
So I mean it's big.
Right. Now, Matt, tell me a little bit more about your experience as a student doing it. Maybe how it relates to what you're doing now. Yeah.
Well, the great thing about the tour is it's I mean, as a theater student, it's a class. So you sign up for the class and take a semester, and instead of their normal theater productions that they do on campus where you come back in the evenings and you rehearse and then you put up a show and run it for like two weeks, the tour is a class, and you come twice a week, and your class time is the rehearsal time. And so they've been rehearsing since mid-January, and now they're finally prepping to go out next week. And so for the rest of the semester, it's the performance and it's touring. And so as a student myself, it was a neat experience to be able to put your theater skills to use in a different way. And part of the design part, which I wasn't involved with as a student, but
Right.
the set has to be designed to fold up and take apart so it can get inside a trailer. And so as students, you're not just an actor. You're not just showing up and doing the show and getting into costume. You have to help be part of the team to put the set up and to make sure, everything's in ship shape, and to make sure your costumes are being taken care of. There's a stage manager who oversees a lot of it, but you're a team player. In other productions, you might just be the actor, and there's crew there that can take care of your costumes and their props and things. But on the tour, you're all in it together, and you're all in charge and responsible for everything. So if something goes wrong, you have to know how to fix it, and you have to know how to handle all the changes that might happen with a show that sets up and takes down over and over and over again, and in different spaces where, oh, this space you don't have a stage. You have so you learn it. For me, it was great to learn how to be more adaptable, and uh, learn more fully all the different aspects that go into putting on a production.
All right. Now, as mentioned, there are 2 free performances open to the public. That's 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. Saturday, April 12th at the Dennis and Cheryl Woods Theater on the Fresno State campus. As mentioned, this is during Vintage Days, so you can come out, bring your family, bring your kids, enjoy the Vintage Days, the booze, the food, the crafts. Go watch a free show. And it should just a fantastic, affordable day for a family to go out.
Yeah, please come. Please come. We'd love to
Absolutely.
have you. Yeah, and it is a show for children, so please don't be afraid of bringing young children. It's very interactive. It can be loud and yeah. Anyway, bring them. It'll be great.
All right, now,
But again, the puppets. Oh, sorry to interrupt. But the other thing about it is, like, it's great for children. But the thing about what makes another thing that makes puppetry exciting is that even though the story might be for children, the puppetry elements, I think, will be engaging and entertaining for adults as well, and they'll be uh, entertained, and they'll enjoy seeing all that come to life.
Now, my understanding of the show, Along Came a Dog, is it involves both live actors and puppets. That's
It
correct.
does.
Yeah.
It does.
So Matt, can you kind of discuss your role in the puppet design for this production? What unique challenges and opportunities did it present?
Sure. Yeah, well, we've been in talks for this production for like, what has it been, Nicola? Like 18 months or almost 2 years.
At least, at least.
When she first came on uh, as a professor at Fresno State, she had talked about some of these ideas, and other professors who knew me had said, "Hey, you should reach out to Matt." And so she'd contacted me, and we had started conversations early on, and about like the style of puppetry that we wanted to incorporate, taking some inspiration from productions like Warhorse, or where you've got this hybrid of puppetry that's operated by person. You're not hiding the person, but the focus goes on the puppet. And so we started chatting about like what this would look like and how you could do it. And so then I set to thinking about how we would build these puppets and how they would operate. And there's one particular instance of like how a challenge or a obstacle to overcome was making the chicken legs. We wanted them to be able to walk around and look. We wanted things to feel real. And even though we know these were like whimsical puppets and they're chickens and stuff, we don't want them to be completely authentic. This isn't movies, but we wanted their motions to still emulate authentic chickens. And we had found some research of other stuff online of a production that made like a chicken puppet, and they had the legs operate. They were sort of rigid, but angled like chicken legs, but they were on a rocker, and the puppeteer would like move the feet on this rocker that would cause the feet to sort of leverage forward when you lifted each part up. But as we were trying to, I was trying to like go further with that, we had other challenges of like, well, how would they sit? How would they roost? Because we need them to sit in little nests on stage if they've got these stiff legs that can't collapse. And so I was thinking about different things. How do we do this? And I remember the technique for marionettes, where the way you string the legs on a marionette that make them kind of fold up a certain way. And I thought, what if I just took that and made it backwards, because their legs go backwards?
Hmm.
And so I experimented with that and strung it up to a handle above the chicken, and it worked. And it looked great because not only could then you articulate the legs, but then they could collapse and fold because they have joints and they're not stiff. I know it's maybe hard to picture um, and think about, but it was a problem and a challenge that we figured out. And now you watch these actors running around and these little chicken legs that are bobbing up and down and running around, but then they can also sit and roost. So it's things like that. It's engineering and design part of like how do you create this essence of life um, on
Well,
stage.
and if I can interrupt a
And
little, what I think is
yeah.
super fun about like the process, right? Because we met over a summer and did some workshopping where we put Matt is so creative, but he took like gallon milk jugs and taped little, like put heads on them and little bottoms on them, and then we
Hmm.
tried to strap up legs and we were playing with stuff and we would talk and I'd be like, they can't run. I need them to like, kind of run around. You know how chickens run around and, and then we were like, what about this? And then, like he said, the legs that were straight, then they would just sit straight and their feet would be straight up sticking out all silly, which isn't how chickens anyway. So the whole process was just this funny, you just don't think about all the things that a chicken does and all the things you might need a chicken to do
Yeah.
until you start
Yeah.
building a puppet of a chicken. And then you're like, oh man, well, I need it to look like that. And I need it to do this. And I think one of my favorite things about working with Matt is he's so open and creative that, we'd go along and we'd say, oh, yes, look, their legs move fast that way. That looks really good. Oh, but they don't fold up. Okay, so start again. And Matt's just always generous that way and tries a new thing. And yeah, they look really good now.
Now,
And
and then you have to train people to use these too, right?
absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, and so then I have to train the actors, and the thing that I strive to do when I'm designing and building puppets is making them easy to operate, easy
Hmm.
to understand. Like, and that's the thing. We figured out how to do these legs, And at the end of the day, when you really look at the mechanics, it's not complicated. It's
Yeah.
very simple. It was just we had to figure out a different approach. I had to apply skills. I don't build marionettes much, but I know a little bit about them, and so I had to remember a technique for a marionette that then I applied to this particular type of puppet. And these puppets aren't marionettes, to clarify. Like, these are technically rod puppets. There's rods attached. So each chicken has two rods on them, one that comes out of their back and one that comes out from the back of their head. And the puppeteers walk around on stage, reaching down, crouching down to like move these chickens across the stage. And so the one on the back has a trigger that makes the wings flap, and another that a rocker that they use their thumb to rock back and forth, and that's what pulls the strings that pulls their legs up. So it's just tricky to navigate at first, but really when you think about what it is, it's not complicated. It's just takes, oh, you have to move this rocker, and then if you want their wings to flap, you have to pull this trigger. And it's easy motions that your
Yeah.
hand can do. It's not like you're trying to do 50 things at once, but it does take practice and training.
Right.
And so with the actors, it was just a matter of like, okay, here's what it does, here's what you can do, and now it's just remembering to always do that throughout the show and not forgetting to do it. It's you're capable of doing it, but now you just have to train yourself
Yeah.
to say, oh, I got to do that.
Now you mentioned something I thought was a little bit interesting. The puppeteers or actors
Mhm.
are on
Yes.
the stage with the puppets. So they're not above on scaffolding or
No.
behind a curtain or anything like that. Yeah. So
Yeah.
they're actually part of the show then?
Totally. Yeah.
They're
In
part.
fact, the
Yeah.
set is a chicken coop
Yeah.
and a kind of a barn shed outside, and then there's a big backdrop in the back of just like, the sky and hills. Yeah. And so you see the puppeteers all the time. They're
Yeah.
never gone. But I just wanted to add, talking about training
Uh-huh.
the puppets, because this is something that an audience wouldn't necessarily know, and so it's kind of fun to talk about. Matt was giving you the details of, so they've got two different rods. They've got a trigger for the mouth. They've got a trigger for the wings. They've got a rocker for the legs. They've also got the story that we're trying to tell and their blocking of where they're supposed to be. And then there's the story of like their chicken might be really hungry, or their chicken might be excited, or their chicken might be laying an egg or whatever. So they've got all of these things they're doing. And it's challenging. And so we, in rehearsal, we started running puppet relay races of all the most difficult things to do with the puppets. And we would time them, right? And we would just have races over and over so that they could practice some of those things. And it became really fun, but
That
it's challenging. All of the, like, I think it's a heightened form of acting, is what I wanted to
mm,
say.
Yeah.
They
okay.
really have to be more than an actor. So,
Yeah. The way I look at it is, when I talk to actors about it, if you've ever done work with masks, when you wear a mask, it covers up your face, which is where people read emotion. And so, as an actor, when you have a mask on, you have to live more in your body and you have to physicalize things more to express sadness or anger. You have to be so much more physical in your body. But with puppetry, it takes it a step further, in that now you have to channel all of these emotions, all of these storytelling tools into an inanimate object. But by doing that, if you can successfully do that, you pull the audience in even more to start believing that these objects are living characters
Mm-hmm.
as part of the show. They're not props, they're characters. And if you can get someone to connect and feel for a chicken,
mhm.
to suspend their disbelief that now they're like, oh, that chicken is sad. That's the reality. Is like, no, it's a puppet, but you are projecting that. And when the puppeteer is doing a good job, it just is that one other next level of like pulling the audience in and getting them to have empathy for a chicken
Yeah.
or a
Yeah.
dog.
And Kate, who Kate Peck plays the farmer
Mm-hmm.
in our production, and then also Jacob plays the boss for our production. So we have two live actors, and they act across from these puppets also, right? So Kate is particularly best friends with this little red hen. The farmer is, and so constantly they're together. And so then Andre, who puppeteers the red hen, like they're constantly together, but it's the red hen that is being
Right.
performed across from. And so it's kind of fun. The puppeteers vanish sometimes for you, and you
Hmm.
almost don't notice them, even though they're right there.
Now,
Yeah.
Matt, I understand that puppetry kind of runs in your family. From what I understand, your father is or was a puppeteer. Uh,
Yes.
so tell
Um,
me a little bit about that influence and kind of growing up with that and what it's had in
sure.
your career.
Yeah. Well, most of the time when people ask how I got into puppetry, I tell them I was raised by puppets in the Central Valley. Um, and the truth of it is my father is a storyteller and a ventriloquist and a puppeteer, and for my entire life, he would tour and perform with a dragon named Grork, and he was a ventriloquist, and he didn't do like the stand-up ventriloquism that we are used to seeing, where it's just like performative. He would just be a storyteller and tell stories with his pet dragon.
Mm.
And as a kid, we would do shows together where he would introduce it with his dragon character and then go backstage and we would have shadow puppets on overhead projectors. And this is something we would all do as a family, and we would tour in a motorhome and travel up and down California. We'd get out of school, get independent study from our teachers for a couple weeks, and we would tour to elementary schools in California as kids. And that was just normal to me, you know? But then in the summer times, we were involved in puppet festivals. Those exist. There's a whole
Wow.
underground community of puppetry. and, and so we would get together with puppeteers from the West Coast or from the country and take workshops and see performances. And as a kid, it was just super exciting and inspiring to me. I liked making things with my hands. I liked art, and to see all these different styles and techniques and to watch puppet shows, I was just like a sponge. I would observe, and I would go to like the exhibits. They would have exhibits where people could like put their work up for display, and I would look closely at how things were made and go, "Oh, that's really cool." And then I'd go home and I'd make things. I'd make stuff out of recycled. I didn't have a lot of money and a lot of resources, so I was like, "How can I make stuff out of cardboard and out of bottles and cans?" And I'd make little robots. And so that started my career into puppetry. I just got more and more involved in it and started making things in my extracurricular activities in school. I'd incorporate puppets somehow in these projects that my school would do. I'd incorporate puppets in my class projects of like ins- my presentation would have a shadow puppet or whatever. And then as I got older, it just continued to go from there.
And then you came to Fresno State,
Yes.
theater arts major, emphasis in acting, if I recall correctly.
I was an acting emphasis, so yeah,
Yeah.
I was an actor, and in the summer times, I started building my own puppet shows to tour at libraries
Mm.
and daycares for their, summer reading programs as a way to earn some money, and so I was a one-man band, like, doing puppet shows for kids in the summers, and then I would be an actor during the rest of the school year.
And
But,
you oh, go ahead. I'm
oh,
sorry.
well, I think my last year I had taken some scenic design classes, and I was given an opportunity to design the set for one of the productions my senior year, and it had also incorporated some puppets. So I got to design and build puppets for a Fresno State production my senior year, and that was like I think my first chance to do puppetry in theater
Mm.
outside of like my puppet shows.
Mhm.
And so that opened up just my portfolio, my resume. So after college, I started getting work designing puppets for the children's theaters and designing sets, which got me jobs right after or shortly after college.
I do want to point out that you were a nominee for a Dean's Medal your senior year, which really makes you the top student in your class in the theater and arts department. So you were doing some incredible work at that time then.
Thank you. Yes, I was. I was a nominee for it, and it was an honor to be considered. And then to look back on like what I had already done with puppetry and
Mhm.
with theater and stuff by my senior year, it was when you put it all together, and when I reflected on it at that point, I was like, "Whoa, I've been very active," you know.
And I
But
just
that's
wanna
always been
I just want to chime in too because it's been really a fun process. We brought Matt onto campus for
Mhm.
2 weeks to help train the actors and to finish up building the puppets. And the faculty here have just been over the moon about the fact that Matt was here,
Yeah.
right? And everyone was like, "We've got to go to lunch. I got to go hang out with Matt." And they would come down and check on things. And so it's been really just such a pleasure for the entire department to have Matt here. So
And let me
Thank you.
ask you, because during your time as a student, was there a particular course or faculty member that really influenced you? You did mention that it was your kind of first time using puppetry in theater, but maybe I got a little off course. Maybe I'm putting words in your mouth. But yeah, was there anything that kind of really that you think back on that really had a huge influence on you?
Well, that's a great question, and it's hard to pinpoint any like one particular person. There's handfuls, it's
Hmm.
different aspects. Like for
Right.
instance, because I was an acting major, I was taught acting by Leslie Martin and Brad Myers. And I attribute like my success because after college I ended up moving to DC. I got a Shakespeare Theater Company fellowship through the Kennedy Center American College Theater Festival. And that's all because of the training I had from my acting professors. But in terms of design, I think I took one semester of a set design class because I like making things and I wanted to make the little miniature models. I thought that would be super cool. So I was just doing it as like a filler to learn some new skills and techniques. And at the end of the semester, after my final project, Jeff Hunter, who's a scenic design professor and has been there for a long time and has been a good sort of friend since college, he took me into his office and just sat down with me and he says like, "I think you should pursue this. I think you should continue to take more design classes." Um, and I was like, "Oh,
Mm.
okay." So for the rest of my college career, on top of taking my usual acting courses, I was fitting in scenic design classes and learning about designing and learning about all those things. So when I graduated, some of my first jobs were designing sets for the local children's theaters
Hmm.
in Fresno, and and then beyond. I mean, I have since realized I don't necessarily want to be a scenic designer full time because there's a lot more into it that is not up my alley. But having professors that would encourage these different sides of me, um, as a whole, completely influenced who I became. And when I graduated, I felt like I had the skills to move forward into the professional world because I had had the encouragement, I had had the support, and um, and just that level of empowerment given to me by my professors.
And it really seems like you've had an amazing career. I mean, you mentioned that you've performed in the Kennedy Center stage. You've received the Jim Henson Foundation grants, I think, 3 times. Uh,
Yes,
you
yeah,
received the Chansey Award for Puppet Design in 2018, 2013, the James MacArthur Award for Outstanding Supporting Actor in a Play. So tell me a little bit about those experiences and just your career so far, because I think a lot of times that people get worried about having going into an education in the arts and what they're going to do, and so it's really inspiring to see somebody who's really gone forward and had just an amazing career. So can you talk about it a little bit?
sure. Yeah, it has been an amazing career. There have been a lot of great opportunities and a lot of great experiences. I will say, to just preface it all, that it
Hmm.
it has still been incredibly hard.
Yeah.
Like, people who want to pursue the arts, um, it is still a challenge. And these successes, these acknowledgments, has not made like things necessarily easier.
Right.
Uh, but I will say that for me, at least, as someone who feels like this is what I'm supposed to be doing, it's worth it.
Hmm.
Um, to undergo the challenges, the instability, the all those things. And I think too often people are afraid to pursue their passions because they are beholden to the societal norms of like, I need the stability. I need the full-time job. And if we've learned anything in the last like several years, is that there's no full-time job that is stable. All things can be pulled out from under you. And so though it has been hard, I've gotten by, and
Yeah.
I have a family, so it's not like I've had to sacrifice that. But yes, I have had these moments when I've been recognized for my passion and for the
Mhm.
work that I've done, and that has given me um, the reassurance or the confidence to keep pushing forward and to keep trying. So to back up to then answer your question, it's after college, I came back and I competed for the American College Theater Festival and ended up winning my final year and went to the Kennedy Center for the national finals. I didn't win that, but while we were there, we got to audition for different scholarships and fellowships, and I got the 9-month fellowship at the Shakespeare Theater Company in DC, which then caused me to move out there. And I decided to stick around and try my hand at acting after that fellowship ended, and I got cast in a role, and that one role ended up getting me the Helen Hayes Award for supporting actor, which opened doors to getting cast more and just establishing myself as an actor. But before I even received that award, people found out I did puppetry, and they said, "Oh, you should reach out to these
Mm.
children's theaters because they usually do a lot of puppet stuff." So I reached out and said, "Hi, I'm new to the area. I'm a puppeteer." And they set up an interview and we met and I showed them my portfolio and I got a job and then started getting other jobs. And before I knew it, I was juggling back and forth between being a stage actor and a props and puppet designer and just was freelancing full time in DC. And that lasted about 10 years until the pandemic. Um, but yeah, that led to other opportunities, other things cross country. Like the Chance U Award was for a design I did for a company in LA, and I was still living in DC at the time, so I was sending them my designs, and my brother was actually involved in. He was living there, and he was involved in building the puppets for me and stuff. And so yeah, things have opened up in strange ways. Um, but it has been when I look back, if compiling together what I did for my Dean's Medalist nomination in college was um, substantial at the time, looking back on what I've done now is even more like, wow,
Yeah.
I haven't slept a lot.
Yeah.
It's I've stayed pretty active.
I understand you also started a business called McGee Entertainment.
Oh, that was when I was doing puppet shows,
Okay.
back in college. Yeah, it was McGee Entertainment, and now it has, evolved to Magical, and, my with the tagline is "Telling stories with a touch of handmade magic," and so it's, um, adding that magical element to theater or to any project, usually through puppetry or through, props
Yeah.
or something handmade.
And now you're in Arizona, working for the Great Arizona Puppet Theater. Can you tell me a little bit about your role there?
Sure, I'm now the director of fabrication, so I'm in charge of
Okay.
building the puppets for them, and I'm also one of their performers, so I perform some of their main stage shows, I tour some of their touring shows that go out to elementary schools throughout, um, the Arizona Valley, and that was an interesting, turn of events to get that job because as I mentioned earlier, I'd go to puppet festivals, right, when I was a kid. Well, um, the the performers from the Great Arizona Puppet Theater would come and present and do shows at these festivals, so I've known them since I was, like, 12 years old and, have grown up knowing them and seeing them at festivals and seeing their productions, and then before the pandemic, they brought me out to do a little, performance for them, and then over the next couple years, they were like, "Hey, we need a new builder. Would you be interested?" And so it didn't work out for a couple years, and then in 2023, um, they brought me out for a project, and we worked together, and then that evolved into a job. So that's what brought me out to the Phoenix area,
All right.
and now I work there.
Do you have any advice for students who are pursuing a career in the arts, maybe similar to your path? You mentioned it was hard, so what advice do you have for them?
My advice is to trust yourself, trust your abilities, and also be okay um, with learning. You know,
Yeah.
if you really want to pursue something, take criticism. If someone says, not maybe you're not the right type for this, or maybe you're not this. If you believe otherwise, don't let someone steer you away from it. Double down and say, "You know what? That's a good challenge. I'm gonna try and figure out what it is I need to overcome to be better and
Mm-hmm.
to be successful." And keep learning and keep allowing yourself to adapt and to improve and progress while being confident in the skills you do have. Um, and for someone who wants to go into the arts or specifically puppetry, I'd say get involved. Like with social media, you can connect to other puppeteers. There are Facebook groups. There are, there's means and ways to reach out to a community of people that might have the same interests,
Mm-hmm.
and then networking with them to bridge your community and find opportunities to find work.
Yeah.
When I moved to DC, if I had just tried to be an actor, I would have had a harder career. But because I reached out and put myself out as a puppeteer and reached out to companies, I started finding other work. So I was able to maintain a career in the arts because I diversified my skill sets. And so I'm a big advocate for anyone who wants to go into the arts, especially, to just learn other skills.
Yeah.
And that way you can still stay involved in what you're passionate about, but you have other means of staying employed.
Nicola, same question for you. What advice do you have for your students?
Well, I think a lot of just what Matt said is just brilliant. I am a theater education professor, and being a teacher, a theater teacher, you have to be a jack of all trades. Oftentimes, the theater educator on a campus, right at a high school, might be the only person there. So they have to run the lights and do sound and set and props and costumes. And so I think my advice really to anyone is the same as Matt's: diversify. Be able to do a multitude of jobs. There will always be more sort of backstage technical theater jobs than there will be acting jobs. And that's just kind of how the profession is. But I also encourage them to. You can also be a teaching artist. So Matt talked about going to the libraries and doing puppet shows. Schools are always looking for artists to come in and teach. And so if you can teach a few things in the day and then at night go to rehearsal, I just think the more you're able to do and try to do, the better off you're going to be, at least making those paychecks happen.
Yeah. So, Matt, what's next for you? Do you have any projects you're working on that you can talk about?
Whew, I've been actually coming off of a lot of things, coming off of doing this.
Mm-hmm.
Along came a dog. I just finished puppets for Child's Play Theater's production of Don't Let the Pigeon Drive the Bus, which is currently happening here in Arizona. I wrapped up a production at the Puppet Theater called Imagine This, where we take stories written by the students of a neighboring school. We take the top 2 stories of these grades and we adapt them into short little puppet shows.
Oh.
So that was a lot of work too, and that just wrapped up. Moving forward, the next major thing on my plate is I'm doing an adaptation or a puppet show production for the Puppet Theater of Winnie the Pooh.
Mm.
And so now that that's in public domain, we're making a Winnie the Pooh show. And so I'm going to be working on that script and getting that ready for June. And fun fact is that the puppets from that are mostly from a production that my parents tried to do when I was a kid. So they've had these puppets, these like tabletop Bunraku style puppets that I helped build way back like in the 90s.
Mm.
And we built the show. We were going to tour it as a family and do it for birthday parties and stuff. It didn't get booked. They put everything in bins and never touched them. And so now years later, I'm pulling them out and I'm going to like update them and be able to do a Winnie the Pooh show by myself using puppets that my parents built. So it's kind of this cool full circle second generation thing that I'm looking forward to
Yeah, that's awesome.
creating.
I love it.
That sounds like a lot of fun. All right,
Yeah.
for both of you, is there anything I missed? Anything you'd like to add?
Come see the show.
Yeah, come see the show.
For
yeah.
sure, come see the show. Yeah.
And just a reminder, there are 2 free performances of Along Came a Dog that are open to the public. That's at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. Saturday, April 12th at the Dennis and Cheryl Woods Theater. And that's on the Fresno State campus. That's right where the University Theater is. That's where that's located in the Speech Arts Building. The performance is during Vintage Days at Fresno State, so come on out, bring your kids, and enjoy the free show. And thank you for Matt and Nicola for joining us today.
Hey, thank you for
You're
having
welcome.
us.
Oh,
Yeah.
and Nicola, one more thing, if
Yeah.
you can chime in on this, but
Sure.
if I understand, are you still taking bookings for schools? Like if schools want to bring the show out?
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of slots open, but yes, you
Oh,
can
okay.
absolutely
was-
reach out. There's a website, there's a page
Mhm.
about the tour, and on that page about the tour has all of the information for a school that might be interested in booking us. So yes,
Yeah.
absolutely, feel free.
And you can Google Along Came a Dog or Theater for Young Audiences at Fresno State, and that will pop up. I've tested this.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
Nice.
all right. Well, thank you both. Thank you both. That was an
Thank you,
excellent
Matt.
conversation.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Artful Discourse is a production of the College of Arts and Humanities at California State University, Fresno. The Dean is Dr. Honora Chapman. This program is written, directed, and produced by me, Benjamin Kirk, the college's communication specialist. The theme song for Artful Discourse is Maiden Voyage by Fresno State music professor Benjamin Boone from his album, Joy. More information about his music can be found at benjaminboone.com. Special thanks to KFSR and FSR Underground General Manager Julie Lindahl for making this show possible. You can learn more about the College of Arts and Humanities and find an archive of our shows at our website, cah.fresnostate.edu, or on our blog, fresnostatecah.com.